Book-to-movie adaptations live or die by one simple rule: respect the soul of the story. And when it comes to The Housemaid, Freida McFadden's wildly popular psychological thriller, that soul was built on slow dread, manipulation, and calculated cruelty. The 2025 movie adaptation, directed by Paul Feig and starring Sydney Sweeney, Amanda Seyfried, and Brandon Sklenar, keeps the surface-level plot intact, but makes some massive creative changes that fundamentally alter how this story feels, who it's really about, and what kind of justice it delivers. Some of those changes are bold. Some are frustrating, and a few feel like Hollywood missing the point entirely. If you loved the book, this breakdown might make you angry. If you only watched the movie, this might completely change how you see it. Welcome back to your nerdy show. I'm your host, Spoiler Master. We're going full spoilers from this point on, breaking down the biggest differences between the book and the movie, why they matter, and whether the adaptation elevates the story or strips away what made it so unsettling in the first place.
Hi, Millie. Hi, Mrs. Winchester. Oh, please call me Nina.
The core story remains, but the tone does not. At a glance, both versions of The Housemaid tell the same story. Millie Calloway is a young woman with a criminal past, recently released from prison, desperate for work and stability. She lands a live-in housemaid job with the wealthy Winchester family. Nina, the emotionally volatile wife, Andrew, the charming and seemingly protective husband, and their daughter Cece. What starts as a lifeline quickly becomes a psychological trap as Millie realizes something is deeply wrong inside this house. But while the book lets that realization creep in slowly, the movie wastes no time pushing the story into high drama. The novel is a slow burn that relies on internal tension, unease, and moral ambiguity. The film, on the other hand, is loud, glossy, and aggressive, favoring shock, confrontation, and visual brutality over psychological dread. That difference alone reshapes nearly every character arc.
She's gonna live with us.
I said she was going to be living in the guest room in the attic. Ta-da!
Millie Calloway, psychological survivor versus cinematic avenger. One of the biggest shifts between the book and the movie is Millie herself. In the novel, Millie's transformation is subtle and deeply internal. We live inside her head as she questions her instincts, rationalizes abuse, and slowly realizes she's being manipulated from all sides. Her anger doesn't explode, it simmers. The horror of the book comes from watching her endure humiliation after humiliation while quietly calculating her survival. The movie version of Millie, played by Sydney Sweeney, is far more reactive and confrontational in ways the book deliberately avoids. Instead of making the audience uneasy, the film often invites them to cheer for her in big, cathartic moments. This makes Millie more immediately likable on screen, but it sacrifices the uncomfortable realism that made her so compelling on the page. In the book, Millie's restraint is the point. She survives by staying quiet, by watching, by waiting. In the movie, she survives by fighting back loudly. That difference turns The Housemaid from a psychological thriller into a revenge thriller, and that shift has consequences.
Hi, Millie. Hi, Mrs. Winchester. Oh, please call me
Nina Winchester, from unstable villain to tragic co-conspirator. Amanda Seyfried's Nina is one of the movie's strongest elements, but she's also one of its most altered. In the book, Nina is deliberately positioned as an antagonist for most of the story. Through Millie's eyes, she's cruel, manipulative, erratic, and emotionally abusive. Only later do we learn that much of Nina's behavior is strategic, born out of desperation and fear of her husband. The movie softens Nina much earlier. Seyfried's performance adds vulnerability and visible cracks in her composure that the book hides until later. As a result, the audience is invited to sympathize with Nina sooner, which changes how the twists land. Instead of a shocking reversal, the film's reveal feels more like confirmation of what viewers already suspected. This isn't necessarily a bad change, but it does make the story safer. The book forces readers to confront how easily we misjudge victims when abuse doesn't look the way we expect. The movie makes that judgment easier.
Going on.
Millie threw away my PTA notes. Why don't we go check your office?
Enzo, the most underrated casualty of the adaptation. If there's one character the movie truly butchers, it's Enzo. In the book, Enzo is far more than a background presence. He actively warns Millie, helps her look for escape routes, and plays a critical role in Nina's decision-making. His romantic and sexual history with Nina adds emotional depth, and his loyalty gives the story a sense of solidarity beyond the central trio. In the film, Enzo is reduced to a quiet observer. His relationship with Nina is barely implied. His role in helping Millie is almost non-existent, and his emotional weight is stripped away. Instead of Enzo pushing Nina to return and save Millie, the movie gives that role to Cece, the daughter. While this shift centers motherhood as motivation, it also removes a layer of adult alliance that made the book richer. This change feels less like creative vision and more like runtime trimming, and it weakens the story's emotional ecosystem.
Entire day. I'm sorry.
Punishment and abuse, psychological horror versus graphic violence. The most controversial changes in the adaptation come down to how abuse is depicted. In the book, Andrew's punishments are methodical and deeply psychological. Locking Millie in the attic and forcing her to balance heavy books on her body for hours while watching her through a camera is horrifying, not because of gore, but because of control. It's slow, humiliating, and designed to break her mentally. The movie replaces this with graphic self-harm. Millie is ordered to cut herself repeatedly with shards of broken china, resulting in visible, bloody wounds. This choice transforms the tone instantly. What was once a chilling exercise in psychological domination becomes visceral body horror. While this undoubtedly raises the shock factor, it also simplifies Andrew's cruelty. The book presents him as a sadistic strategist who enjoys prolonged suffering. The movie turns him into a more conventional monster. It's scarier in the moment, but less disturbing when you think about it afterward.
I want you to feel safe here. I do.
Andrew Winchester, the monster, becomes less subtle. In the novel, Andrew is terrifying because of how calm and controlled he is. His charm never cracks. His cruelty is quiet, calculated, and wrapped in civility. Even his death reflects this, as Millie leaves him locked in the attic to die slowly from dehydration, mirroring the psychological torture he inflicted on her. The movie abandons this restraint. Andrew becomes physically violent, openly aggressive, and unhinged in the final act. His death is loud, dramatic, and immediate, involving a physical struggle and a fatal fall. This makes the climax exciting, but it removes the poetic justice of the book's ending. The novel's version of Andrew's death forces readers to sit with the discomfort of revenge that isn't heroic. The film's version lets the audience exhale and applaud.
Oh my God. What kind of monsters are we?
Evelyn Winchester, expanded presence, reduced impact. Andrew's mother, Evelyn, plays a crucial role in explaining who Andrew is. In the book, she exists mostly in flashbacks, where her abuse of Andrew as a child, including pulling out his teeth as punishment, explains his obsession with control and smiles. Her presence looms like a shadow over the story. The movie gives Evelyn more screen time in the present, portraying her as verbally abusive, manipulative, and unsettling. While this makes her more immediately threatening, it also flattens her character. The film spends less time exploring the specifics of her abuse, turning her into a gothic villain rather than a psychological origin point. It's effective visually, but thematically thinner.
This is your room. What do you think? It's perfect.
False accusations and escalated stakes. Another notable change is how Nina sabotages Millie. In the book, Nina anonymously accuses Millie of shoplifting, a subtle but damaging move that isolates her further. The movie escalates this to a grand theft accusation involving the family car, resulting in Millie's arrest. This change raises the stakes quickly and makes Andrew's intervention more manipulative, but it also leans into spectacle over realism. The book's version feels insidious and plausible. The movie's version feels designed to accelerate the plot.
Getting yourself into? The job is mostly cleaning.
The ending, quiet cruelty versus explosive catharsis. The biggest divide between the book and the movie is the ending. The novel ends with calculated silence. Andrew dies alone. Millie walks away without a fight. Nina lies to protect herself. Justice is served, but it's cold and unsettling. The movie ends with confrontation. There's a fight, a chase, and a violent death witnessed by multiple characters. It's empowering, thrilling, and undeniably cinematic, but it changes the message. The book asks whether revenge can ever be clean. The movie answers yes.
You're leaving?
No, you misheard me.
Our nerdy thoughts. The Housemaid movie isn't a bad adaptation, but it is a different story. It trades psychological depth for spectacle, slow dread for fast thrills, and moral ambiguity for crowd-pleasing closure. For viewers who want tension, violence, and a clear sense of triumph, the film delivers. For readers who loved the book's unsettling intimacy and quiet cruelty, something essential is lost. In the end, the book lingers longer. The movie hits harder in the moment. Whether that's an improvement or a betrayal depends on what you wanted from the story in the first place. If you've read the book and watched the movie, the real question isn't which one is better, it's which one made you more uncomfortable.
No, what the heck, I'll laugh anyway.